You know, every single day we're tapping, swiping, and clicking our way through dozens of apps. I mean, think about it. From ordering your morning coffee to checking your bank account, they're just a huge part of our lives now. But have you ever actually stopped and wondered who makes these things? Today we're going to pull back the curtain on that invisible world of digital design. It's a feeling we all know, right? Some apps are just a dream to use. They're intuitive, they're clean, they just work. And then there are the others, the ones that are clunky, confusing, and honestly, a total nightmare. Well, I'm here to tell you that difference is never an accident. It's all about intentional, careful choices made by a whole team of specialists. So who are these digital wizards? Well, behind every great app, you're usually going to find three key design roles working together. Each one has a totally different focus, but they're all aiming for the exact same goal, creating something that works perfectly for you, the user. So let's meet the team. Okay, first up, we have the user experience designer, or UX designer. The best way to think of them is as the architect of the whole experience. Their job has nothing to do with fancy colors or fonts, not yet anyway. It's all about the deep down functionality. They're the ones asking the big questions. Does this app actually solve a problem for the user? Is it easy to navigate? Their whole mission is to make sure your journey from point A to point B is as smooth and logical as possible. Next, we've got the user interface, or UI designer. Now, if the UX designer is the architect who draws up the blueprints, the UI designer is the interior designer. They take that functional skeleton and bring it to life visually. They're the ones picking out the color palettes, the fonts, designing every single button and icon you see. Their goal is to create an interface that's not just gorgeous to look at, but also feels instantly intuitive. And finally, rounding out our team is the product designer. Think of this person as the director of a movie. They have the big picture view, and their job is to connect all the dots between what the user desperately needs and what the business is trying to accomplish. They oversee the entire process, making sure that the final app isn't just easy to use and beautiful, but that it's also a success for the company. And this table here really lays it all out, doesn't it? The UX designer's world is functionality. The UI designer lives in aesthetics. And the product designer is all about the overall strategy. You can see how, even though their day-to-day work is different, they absolutely have to work hand in hand to create one single cohesive product. It just wouldn't work otherwise. So how do they actually do it? How do they build an app from scratch? Well, it's definitely not just some sudden flash of inspiration. There's a very structured, user-focused process they follow to make sure they're solving the right problems in the best way possible. A really common framework for this is called design thinking. It's a 5-step process, and you'll notice it always starts with the user. First, designers empathize. They do tons of research to really get inside the user's head. Then, they define the core problem they're trying to solve. Next up is ideate, which is just a fancy word for brainstorming a ton of different solutions. From there, they build a quick prototype of the best ideas, which they can then test with real users to get feedback. It's this awesome cycle of build, test, learn, and repeat. Now, that prototype stage is where things start to feel really real. I mean, way before anyone writes a single line of code. Designers create these tangible models of the app. And this is so crucial. It lets them figure out the structure and test the experience, and believe me, it saves a massive amount of time and money down the line. The very first step is usually something called a wireframe. This is the absolute blueprint of the app. It's a super simple sketch, sometimes just boxes and lines, that shows where everything is supposed to go. Where are the buttons? Where does the text go? Where do the images go? The focus is 100% on structure and layout, not on how it looks. It's all about getting that skeleton right first. Okay, so once that blueprint feels solid, then designers create a prototype. This is a much more realistic, interactive model. It's got the colors, it's got real-looking text, and most importantly, it has clickable buttons that let you move between screens, almost like you're using the final app. The entire point here is to simulate the real user experience so it can be tested like crazy before the expensive development work even begins. So here's the key difference in a nutshell. A wireframe is a low-fidelity blueprint, and its whole job is to plan the structure. A prototype is a high-fidelity model, and its job is to test the interactive experience. So one is about the plan, the other is all about the feel. All right, but here's the thing. Great design doesn't just happen because you follow a process. It's also guided by a powerful set of principles, many of which are actually rooted in decades of research into human psychology. These are kind of like the unspoken rules that make an app feel so intuitive. And the cornerstone, the absolute bedrock of all these principles, is usability. This is really the core measurement of how good a design actually is, and it breaks down into 3 pretty simple questions. Is it effective? Can you actually do what you came here to do? Is it efficient? Can you do it quickly without a lot of hassle? And finally, is it satisfying? Was it a pleasant experience or a frustrating one? So to nail that usability, designers focus on 3 pillars. First is learnability. How fast can a brand new user figure this thing out without needing a giant instruction manual? Second is flexibility. Does the app work just as well for a total newbie as it does for a power user? And third is robustness. How well does the app help you when you inevitably make a mistake? Think of a helpful undo button or a clear error message that actually tells you how to fix the problem instead of just saying, error. To put this all into practice, designers often lean on a famous set of rules of thumb called Nielsen's heuristics. For example, visibility of system status. That's why you see loading bars and spinners. The app is communicating with you, telling you what's happening. Consistency is why that little magnifying glass icon pretty much always means search, no matter what app you're in. These simple standards make the entire digital world more predictable and way easier to navigate. Okay, this is where it gets really, really cool. These design principles, they aren't just arbitrary rules someone made up. They work because they are based on the fundamental laws of how our brains actually process information. The best designers are basically, they're hacking our own psychology for our benefit. The number one goal, above all else, is to reduce something called cognitive load. That's just a scientific-sounding term for the amount of brain power you have to use to figure something out. An app with high cognitive load is cluttered, it's confusing, and it leaves you feeling tired and frustrated. A truly great design, on the other hand, feels effortless because it demands very little of your precious mental energy. A key tool for this is something called Hicks' law. And the law is simple. The more choices you have, the longer it takes you to make a decision. Have you ever felt totally paralyzed looking at a restaurant menu with 100 different items? That is Hicks' law in action. And it's exactly why great apps will intentionally limit the options in their navigation to help you decide faster and feel way less overwhelmed. Then you've got Fitz's law, which is all about the physics of how we move. Basically, it says it's faster to hit targets that are bigger and closer to us. Now, this sounds super obvious, right? But the implications are huge. It's the reason why the big Add to Cart button on an e-commerce site is always huge and easy to reach, while that tiny Delete My Account link is often buried somewhere small and hard to get to. It's design. And finally, designers use something called gestalt principles. These are rules about how our brains automatically group visual information together without us even trying. For example, the principle of proximity just means we assume things that are physically close together belong together. And similarity means we assume that items that look the same, like say 2 blue buttons, probably do similar things. Designers use these mental shortcuts to create layouts that feel instantly organized and intuitive. So when you put it all together, all these roles, these processes, and these scientific principles, it all points to one fundamental truth. While looks are definitely important, great digital design isn't really about making things pretty. At its absolute core, it is a deep, empathetic exercise in understanding people, our goals, our frustrations, and the quirky ways our minds work. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you open up your favorite app, I want you to really look at it. Try to see if you can spot the invisible hand of the designer at work. Notice the placement of a button, the way information is grouped together, the simplicity of a menu. What choices can you now see that were completely hidden from you before? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into design.